We are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's Revved Up recap of Detroit Pistons versus the Boston Celtics at TD Garden, I want to give a quick shout out to Grind Clothing Co. As you'll see in today's recap, Ryan is wearing the new sweatshirt that just came out in our second merch drop. So you can find that in the link below in the description and in our YouTube bio. And then Grind Clothing Co. is our first merch sponsor. So you can also find the link to our second merch drop in their Instagram bio as well. Also, make sure to like and subscribe because we will be bringing you so much Detroit Pistons content. We got a great week 15 episode coming out Saturday, so be on the lookout for that. We talk about the new James Wiseman trade and how it can go, what we kind of expect from him, and then also how he will mix with our current young core and what that might look like. So we had a lot of fun with that episode. So make sure to turn on your post notifications. And then if you're overall just a NBA fan and you're watching this, subscribe and be in the know of what's going on with the young teams in today's NBA, which one of those teams and exciting teams are the Detroit Pistons. So we're happy to be bringing you today's Revved Up recap. We will get into it. Tonight's final score was 109-127 in the Boston Celtics' favor. We saw this game kind of become a slow start for the Detroit Pistons in like the first and middle of the second quarter. Was able to make a little bit of a resurgence heading into halftime. Had a great third quarter. Bojan Bogdanovic had 14 points in the third quarter alone. But we just kind of got out manpowered by the Boston Celtics. What are some of your first takeaways from today's game, Ryan?
So when you have a generational talent like Jason Tatum, it's kind of hard to slow him down. And if you limit him to 12 points in the first half like we did last time, which we didn't do tonight, you're off to a good start. And we couldn't stop him tonight. He's amazing, honestly. One of my favorite players to watch. Like, if you just gave me the remote and I could only watch Jason Tatum for the rest of my life, I'd be fine with that. Right. He's that good. So what can you do to limit Jason Tatum? Well, you can take away all of his options, meaning take away all the key role players on that team. How do you slow those guys down when they have so many uber talented players on their roster? Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown did not play tonight, but still, you have all these key great players on a good championship caliber team in Boston. So how do you compete with that? And the answer would be, Bojan Bogdanovic, because he really kept us in the game tonight. He had 28 points, 5 boards, 2 assists. He shot the ball great. 12 of 17, missed 2 threes, missed a free throw. He had a great overall game. But he can't be the only reason to stay in this. And so you have Jaden Ivey, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal.
Yeah.
Good, solid night for him. Duren was quiet, but that goes back to their bigs. When you have Al Horford and all these guys, it's hard to compete against that because they're vets and they know what to do and what not to do. So the big factor in us even staying in this game tonight, it goes to credit Bojan.
For sure. And, you know, talking about the bigs of the Boston Celtics tonight, Robert Williams, he obviously didn't play. So, we didn't really get to deal with him the way we did last time we matched up against the Celtics. But, Cormet, is that how you say his last name? I think it's Cormet.
Luke Cornet.
Cornet. Yep. So he's from Purdue, 7'2". So he's obviously a big dude. And, we're going to talk about in episode 15 coming out Saturday about how the Pistons are kind of undersized with Isaiah Stewart at the 4. And he didn't have a bad game tonight. In particular, I really liked his play tonight. Made 4 for 6 from the 3-point line, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 5 of 8 shooting on 26 minutes. So I'm not necessarily hating on Isaiah Stewart here, but I know we're going to talk about in episode 15 how we kind of want to see how Wiseman and Duren play together at the 4 and 5. I really see Duren more at the 5 than James. I see him at the 4 just because he's a little bit quicker. He's got that outside shot. But I think when we see Cormet and Al Horford play together, I think if we put Wiseman and Duren against those two, I think we might be able to defend them a little bit more. Tonight's not the best example because Isaiah Stewart did have a solid night. But I think in the end, when it comes to this game we just weren't able to stop Jason Tatum. And that's really what it really comes down to. He's just so dominant and he plays so well and at a high level that it's hard to control him for all 4 quarters. Even if we did stop him to only 12 like we did in our last matchup in the first half, he's just so dominant. And I think, for me, I think if I had to pick who's your second favorite team in the league as far as the NBA, I'm going Boston Celtics all the way. I've always been kind of partial to the Celtics because I loved Kevin Garnett growing up. I used to pretend I was him in the playing in the gravel at my house, shooting hoops, so I've always been partial to the Boston Celtics. So, but one thing in this season full of losses, all we want to see is competitive games. And we saw the Pistons in the third quarter pull it within 6 points. So are you happy with what you saw tonight from the Pistons overall? And then after you kind of comment on that, we'll talk about James Wiseman's debut a little bit.
Yeah, from a competitive standpoint, in the second half alone, I was happy. I was satisfied. Now, do I wish the game was a little bit closer at the end? Sure, but there is not much you can do with Jason Tatum there. But the first half we started off slow like we do in almost every game, so I'm not shocked that we kind of got blown out of the water in the first half. But I will say, from a competitiveness standpoint, in the second half alone, I'm satisfied. Now, totally. I still wish it would have been closer, but I'm still happy with what our guys did. Like you saw Corey Joseph have a block. You see all these guys diving all over the place, making plays. I'm happy when our guys work their tails off, and I'd rather have that than have somebody come in and just kind of stand around and be all mopey because we lost. And yeah, I understand it's painful that we lost, but you can still work hard until the whistle blows and the horn sounds. And so, like when you have Stanley Umude come in with a little bit of time left in the game with 2 minutes, and he comes in. Now, I will say the first shot he took up was a terrible shot. He should not have shot it, but I get why he did. But then he comes back on the defensive side of things and has a block. Like those are the little things that you need to do in order to win. And if you keep doing the little things until the final whistle, then it's just gonna build up, and over time you're gonna see guys just diving all over the place like Livers does countless time and time out. And so when you have all these guys working their tails off until the very end of the game, then you can leave your hat on the door going like, all right, we were competitive. Now, did we get the result that we wanted? No. But at the end of the day, we still walked in there and gave them a challenge.
Yeah, and there's a lot of games as Pistons fans where you're just like, dude, this is brutal to watch. Yep. And that wasn't really tonight's game against the Boston Celtics, and that's what I'm happy with. We weren't sitting in the third quarter down by 27 and we're just like, geez, we can't buy a bucket. The Pistons finished with 51% at the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Now the Celtics, on the other hand, scored 21 threes total throughout 4 quarters. But that kind of is explaining how this game went. The Pistons didn't play terrible. It's just the Boston Celtics are a contending team. And the Pistons really were just kind of out man-powered, really. Yeah. The Celtics just had a little bit more oomph from the bench. And that's going to happen. And now we're talking about the bench. Let's talk about James Wiseman's debut. He finished with 11 points, 5 rebounds, 1 foul, 5 of 9 shooting in 23 minutes. One thing that kind of caught me off guard, and watching his film, you kind of catch this, but really until watching him play all 4 quarters and really watching a full game, he's really quick on his feet,
Yeah.
man. He can get up and down the floor. That's why I like him even more at the 4 position. To be able to get up and down the way he does is just incredible. And then also, what did you kind of think about? I don't know if you noticed this, but it seemed like Isaiah Livers, Killian Hayes, Bojan Bogdanovic were doing a lot of communicating with James Wiseman. As a Pistons fan, that's really good to see. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you need that coming into a situation where you don't know what's going on. Because I just from experience, when you're learning something new, you want people to help you out along the way. You don't want to just walk in there, think you know what you're doing, but do a bad job. You don't want that. You don't want to be embarrassed. So I really appreciated all these guys going like, hey, just so you know, like make sure you be there, or like this is how we do certain things.
Right.
Just adjustments along the game. It really helps a young player that really hasn't had the experience as others have in their third year that Wiseman has missed out on. So when you have these guys just giving a helping hand and trying to help their teammate out for the long term and show like, hey, you got this. Let's just be right here and let's make sure we're not misreading this play and making sure we're staying in the lane, just doing different things that will help in the long term.
Yeah.
I really appreciate our guys really bringing him in, because there are some trades that happen where they're upset with the trade of their former teammate getting chipped away. And so they don't really want this new guy in there because it's like,
Right.
how is he better than Sadiq Bey kind of thing? So it's just, I'm glad to see that our guys are welcoming him in and making sure he's involved and just staying connected. And I really appreciate that.
For sure. For sure. I completely agree. Killian Hayes finished with 10 points, 9 assists, 3 of 11 shooting. So that's a little iffy. You want to see him shoot a little bit more efficient, but he played a total of 30 minutes. Are you happy with 10 points, 9 assists? Like, are we happy with that stat line?
I'd say yes. It is better than a goose egg. It's better than nothing. So I am happy with that. But at the same time, there is still room for improvement. Like a lot of room for improvement. But that just comes with time. Case in point with James Wiseman. Like James Wiseman had a solid night tonight. But why did he have a solid night tonight? Because he got an opportunity to play, for one, something he never had in Golden State. And two, it just he's that talented. So when you give the player the opportunity to, he's gonna take it. Now, Killian, he may not take it every night, but that's because he's not an every night kind of guy. He's more of like, I'm gonna do all the little things that go unnoticed and help us win, rather than fill the box score and be like, oh yeah, I just dropped 30 points on the Boston Celtics. Now, I'm sure he would want to do that still, but he's definitely a pass first kind of guy. He's very, very unselfish, and I like that. And then he does all the little things on defense, diving all over the floor, going for the steals. He just he's kind of like a Matisse Thybulle in the sense that he knows how to read the defense. He knows how to be in a certain position to stop the play from even happening. So you see all these little things from him that go unnoticed all the time. And often, time in and time out, you see fans going like, Killian's a bum. Like, why is he even in this rotation? Why is he starting? He only had 3 points, 3 rebounds, so on. But it's because he does all the little things right. And coaches love that. So I'm going to take 10 points and 9 assists from him. He also had 2 steals and 2 rebounds. So, like, he had a solid night. It's just most people would be expecting like 15, 20 points. He did have that stretch where he was doing that consistently, but he doesn't need to do that every single night in order to win.
Right. We saw Malcolm Brogdon in all 4 quarters kind of show up. He finished with 25 points, 6 assists, 10 of 14 shooting, and 5 of 8 from the 3-point line in 28 minutes. I mean, man, is that dude a beast. As far as Defensively, he's pretty tough, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he's a solid defender, but really offensively, that's where he shines. And he just is he's such a perfect fit for the Boston Celtics. So shout out, who's their GM again?
Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens. Yeah. So I mean, just shout out for them going and getting Malcolm Brogdon. He's like the perfect player to like come off the bench for them
Yep.
and give them a boost, but also be able to run the offense. And then say Marcus Smart does get hurt, he's going to the starting lineup
Yep.
without even skipping a beat. I'm sure they probably actually kind of go back and forth between starting throughout the season. I'm sure there's some ebbs and flows, but Malcolm Brogdon, he's always been kind of a pain for the Pistons. We can never really find an answer for him. I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah, and no matter what team he plays on, between Milwaukee, Indiana, now Boston, he's always been good. He's always been a threat to us in order for us to succeed, and we just haven't been able to slow him down. But those are the kind of guys where you really have to have your best defender on him to slow him down, but you can't throw the best defender on him when you have Jason Tatum to guard too, or Marcus Smart, or Al Horford even. There's so many weapons that the Celtics have that there's no way you can possibly slow down Malcolm Brogdon without eliminating everybody, but that's just impossible because the Celtics are that deep. So the only way I can possibly think about stopping Brogdon is limiting his options. So when you take away the paint, when you're taking away certain players from him being able to pass the ball to, that's the only thing you can really limit him with. You can try and block his shot, but he's quick and elusive enough to blow by you. And so there's not much you can do with these guys. You just kind of have to hope and pray that they have a bad game.
Right. Pistons heading into halftime were shooting 46% from the field. We saw that get better in the second half. They finished with 51%. So I think that's something that has to be noted, that I actually do think when the games are somewhat close, the Pistons do get better throughout the game. They sometimes kind of come out a little bit slow, and you're like, oh no, is it going to be one of those nights? But then the second quarter, they kind of make a little bit run there before halftime. Third quarter, they can typically kind of keep it going, maybe not get as many defensive stops as we want, but our offense is finding their groove. And then the fourth quarter, it seems like everything kind of comes together. We didn't see that happen tonight, but we saw end of the third into the beginning of the fourth, the Pistons really make a resurgence to their offense and be able to show that when Wiseman was on the floor, the Celtics struggled for about a 5 to 6 minute segment there to actually get some offensive flow together. And I think that speaks a lot to our defense, because the Celtics are no fools. Those guys know how to score, man. So I was really proud to see our defense. One, they were moving. They were moving and they were flowing so well, switching so quick. And with Wiseman, I've noticed that there's not so many mismatches in the paint. You know, sometimes we've seen these last couple of weeks, our teams kind of coerce the Pistons defense into mismatches in the paint. So then we see Killian Hayes going up against a guy like DeAndre Ayton that he has no business guarding in the paint. And with Wiseman, it seemed that maybe he's quick enough and maybe a little bit quicker at the center position that those mismatches aren't happening as often. So I know that that's been something that's been kind of like a worrisome for our defense. We've kind of saw that issue solved a little bit when Wiseman was on the floor, and that was terrific to see.
Yeah, I really, really liked that out of him. And it just, I can't imagine how much trouble Boston would have had if Duren and Wiseman were on the court together during that stretch. Because if Wiseman is staying off these screens and staying with his man and not allowing Boston's defense to flow, I just can't imagine what it would be like with a shot blocker, uber athletic big like Jalen Duren in there with him. I don't. If I were the Celtics, I wouldn't want to play them. That'd be scary, because it'd be kind of like Cleveland or even Boston in that situation where they have Al Horford and Robert Williams, or Cleveland with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Just
Yeah.
you can't defend it. And
I,
from an offensive standpoint, how are you going to score on that other than shooting threes?
yeah. When it comes to the tandem of Jalen Duren and a possible James Wiseman together as a duo, imagine Blake Griffin and Al Horford, two old men trying to guard these two uber athletic centers. Well, what do they do? I mean, they have to take Blake Griffin out.
Yep.
Like, I just can't imagine. That's why. Do you think Dwayne Casey's going to give us that duo at any point, or is he not going to give it to us?
Well, historically speaking, Dwayne Casey typically changes the lineup every 2 weeks, and it's a new lineup almost every 2 weeks, and that's it. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a new lineup where pretty soon, where we're going to see Duren and Wiseman together. It may not be right away. It's probably going to be the last stretch of games leading into the playoffs, but we're still going to be able to see it at some point. And if not starting lineup, you're still going to see them on the court together at some point because Casey's going to want to see that. And I know Weaver for a fact is going to want to see that. So I definitely hope it's soon because that would be fun to see. And honestly, having Wiseman come off the bench even for the rest of the season and not start, I am perfectly fine with that because he was very productive tonight. 24 minutes and had the 11 points, 5 rebounds off the bench, and he only missed 4 shots the entire game. Like, I'm going to take that off the bench every single time because his presence was known. Granted, Boston doesn't have a lot of tape on Wiseman. Neither do most of the teams in the NBA, but that's because Wiseman has been in and out with injury and really hasn't been given an opportunity yet. But the sky is the limit for Wiseman and the Pistons, and I am extremely excited to see the lineup of Duren and Wiseman going forward because they're honestly going to be. It's a bit bold to say it now, so I won't say it. But I was gonna say no. I can't say it. I can't say it.
We'll say it in a future episode.
Yep.
Save it for a future episode.
Yep.
We'll talk about it eventually. I'm sure it'll come true. I believe in it. Something that I wanted to talk about is that the Pistons were actually very even with the Boston Celtics in a lot of the statistic categories through 4 quarters. We saw the Pistons shoot 51% from the field. Celtics shot 53%. From free throws, we shot 75%. They shot 80%. We had 24 assists. They had 30 assists, which that kind of got us. 30 assists in a game is a lot. And then blocks, we had 4 blocks. They had 5. Steals, we had 6, and they had 10. Turnovers, we had 3 more than them. So in a lot of these different categories, sometimes there's a huge discrepancy, and that's what you can kind of pin the loss for. And I think for that tonight was the 21 threes from the Boston Celtics. They just barraged threes from the field. So I think that's the biggest discrepancy, but that doesn't necessarily jump off the box score. That's just a stat that, you have to really dig deep to find or watch the game to notice, oh, holy crap, the Celtics scored a bunch of threes. But that's something I kind of want to point out is that we were in the same ballpark of a lot of the statistics tonight with the Boston Celtics. So that's definitely a positive to take away and to be like, okay, there's a nod to the coaching staff and to the Pistons tonight in even a loss. What are some of your last takeaways from tonight's game, Ryan?
We had solid bench play tonight. Every guy that was on our bench contributed. Even if Livers has 0 points, I'm still taking a steal, an assist, and 2 rebounds from him. So everybody on our bench contributed in some capacity or another tonight. Ronnie Magruder did not play, but that was coach's decision. But even if he did play, he still would have done almost the same as anybody else that came off the bench tonight. And you have to be ecstatic to see your bench play in the way they did.
Absolutely. Very happy with Hamidou, Alec Burks. They're giving us exactly what we need. Actually 10 points from Hami's a little bit light for him, but I'll still take that. I'm happy with it. He's going to have nights where he doesn't score 13, 14. He'll have 10-point nights. We'll take it. Whatever. If he's in the double digit range, by all means, cool with that.
Yep.
So that will do it for today's Revved Up recap. The final score of tonight's game was 109-127 for a win for the Boston Celtics in TD Garden. We are officially approaching and in the All-Star break. We will be seeing Jaden Ivey in the skills challenge. Correct. Yep. And then we will be seeing Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey in the Rising Stars games and the matchups. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe we'll post some content when that comes around. Thank you for watching today's Revved Up recap. Make sure to like and subscribe and push your post notifications on. And we will see y'all in the next episode. Peace.